Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Administrator, let's think again about the overall process. And I guess I would first ask you, would you agree that adhering to the process laid out by NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act, and conducting an environmental impact study are the best ways to determine the impacts of a project?
Not necessarily. I think in this instance, the review of the watershed and the assessment that was done here in some ways is quite deeper than what you get in a NEPA assessment. Here we had independent peer review. You don't have that in a NEPA process. Here we had a focus on ecological risk. So this was an ecological risk assessment process that we engaged in with the watershed assessment.
Administrator, are you aware that the National Resources Defense Council, a rather powerful Pebble Mine opponent, called NEPA and the environmental impact study process the Magna Carta of environmental protection?
So I've seen Tom Collier, the Pebble CEO, quote that.
So do you find it strange that a group like the National Resources Defense Council that holds NEPA and the environmental impact study process in such high regards wants to exclude the Pebble project from that process?
So again, I think the NEPA process is a fine process. It is an excellent process, but there are other processes as well, and the 404C process is an independent process that has its own rules and due process, and it's a very fair and transparent process as well.
Administrator, that this administration's EPA has consistently taken the position that the environmental impact study process must be done and that no shortcuts can be taken before decisions are made regarding environmentally controversial development. So if that's the consistent position of the administration, why can EPA not trust the process in this particular instance?
So again, the Pebble partnership could invoke the permitting process, could invoke the NEPA process by filing a permit with the Corps. They could have done that many times over the years, and they chose not to.
And you made it quite clear in response to a number of my colleagues that you won't reconsider invoking the 404C process, and you're consistent in that response, correct, Administrator?
Yes.
You know, one of the challenging things for members of this committee, and for that matter the public back home, when dealing with the federal government and agencies within the federal government, is trying to understand and play within the rules as they are presented. You give the impression, at least to this member of the committee, and I suspect folks back home, that under your leadership and in this particular situation, your part of the agency is willing to pick and choose between the rules and pick and choose policies as they see fit at that moment. That's very frustrating for those of us in the outside world and for members of this committee. I would suggest that this seems to point us in a direction that perhaps, Mr. Chairman, ultimately we need to provide greater guidance and clarification in the law, that we need to provide greater certainty so that those within the agency understand what they should be doing, so that those in the outside world who have to deal with or contend with have the ability to take the right actions in the best interest of the environment and the country. This is amazing, and the fact is everyone needs to know what the rules are and play by the rules. And with that, Mr. Chairman, in a frustrated way, I yield back.
Thank you, Mr. Lucas.